All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. I really appreciate you coming out tonight. And it's our third community forum update on the project. And those of you who either were here or watched the one in April know we had some pretty critical decision points, and we're going to go over what's happened since April. And actually, it's been a lot in a 2-month period of time. We wanted to get one more update in before the heart of summer starts, and then we'll be back with you in the fall. So this is our agenda. Again, we'll go over where we are. We'll talk about the preferred solution. And again, you'll recall from April, we were still on the fence about what was going to happen with the preferred solution, but we'll go over that. We're going into schematic design. We'll go over the schedule and the next steps, and then obviously we'll open it up to any questions at the end. So again, I'm Gary Keith, the chair of the School Building Committee, and as we've done before, we'll put our roster up, which is spread over 2 slides. I will comment that we've had a little bit of reorganization since the last meeting, and an addition, really. The school committee went through some changes after the town election, and so Robin Dragonetti has joined the School Building Committee as the representative from the school committee itself. And then Dave Schmier, who was the school committee representative, is staying on the committee as a parent, electrical engineering, and the CPAC representative member as well. So we've added one to the voting roster, and the roster, as part of the process with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, they have to affirm the roster, and they have done that. So all the voting members have been authorized by the Mass School Building Authority. Our project team, tonight we have Sean and Chris from PMA here. And we have Lori and James here from our designer, HMFH. And we have a new addition to the design team as well. Melissa Green has joined as a design lead. She came to her first meeting last week with the School Building Committee, and she'll be working with us through the schematic design process. So where are we? So I like to call this my headline slide, if you will, in terms of what's happening since the last community forum that we had. So we have selected the preferred solution, and that is K through 6 new construction at the Roselle McDonald School site with an enrollment of 1,075 students. So K through 6, as I talked about in April, was one of the design options that we had put on the list of possibilities right from the beginning. But early on, we went down a path of really looking at pre-K through 6, both at Howard and at Roselle. The issue at Howard really revolved around the municipal septic system that is available at that site, which includes this building, the library, Spring Street, fire and police, the senior center, and the Howard School. And it is essentially at capacity. So if we try to take all the population from from Roselle and add it to that, we're in now tipping the scale with the need for a wastewater treatment plant, and not just for a new school at that site, but also for the entire municipal system that's in place. And obviously the price tag for that would be pretty significant. Much of that would be really outside the scope of the School Building Committee. It really would be a town issue, if you will. Secondly, we really looked at the options for how to fit such a large building on that site. And it really didn't fit well. And at the end of the day, it becomes a very crowded site with a building that would require over 1,000 students. And if you add in the traffic with the senior center and the library, it really, while it may be a good spot from a campus standpoint and everything in the central area of the town, it really didn't flow well from the standpoint of a design. So back we went to Roselle. And again, septic issues raised its head there as well, as I talked about in April. And that was a factor in taking pre-K out of the equation for Roselle, because if we kept pre-K in as a design option, we would again at Roselle be in the situation of needing a wastewater treatment plant, extra expense, and physically we didn't think we could even do it. So it became much more complicated from that standpoint. Taking pre-K out now gets us below that threshold, and now we can just do a straight septic system, which is much easier for us to manage in the project. So that's the intent. That's what we're doing. So again, the question is going to be, well, what happens to pre-K and all this? And the decision on that really does not rest with the school building committee. It really rests with the school committee and what happens with that. I will say the discussion seems to be centered around the fact that it would stay at Spring Street. And then if you look at the next bullet point, we also voted just at our meeting last week to remove the district office space from the new project. And there's a couple of reasons for this, the biggest one being cost. If you look at the square foot required for that, and you look at not just the construction cost, but the total project cost, we're looking at a total of about $5 million. We can now take that off the project calculation right off the top. And so now if pre-K is going to stay, let's assume for a minute it's going to stay at Spring Street, theoretically then the district offices could stay at Spring Street as well. Theoretically, they could, pre-K could go into one wing, the district offices could stay in the other wing. We've also, as part of our decision for whether or not this made sense to take the district offices out and to take pre-K out, we looked at some design options for both Spring Street and Howard School as a possibility, but again, it's not within the jurisdiction of the school building committee to decide that. And Superintendent Bodwell's here tonight. If during the question and answer period you want a little bit more explanation of that, he'll be happy to provide that for you. In May, on May 21st, as part of the MSBA process, our first step in taking this preferred design option was with what they call their Facilities Assessment Subcommittee. And this is a committee made up of several board members of MSBA and other technical representatives looking at the facility itself, how it handles the education plan, and how it will support our design intent for the new school. And we met with them on May 21st. That went very well. They had a few questions, but certainly nothing that was going to stop it from moving forward. And moving forward it did, and hot off the press, there was a meeting today with the MSBA Board of Directors. And we've already gotten the letter back from MSBA staff indicating that the MSBA board did take a vote which now moves us from, in the feasibility design process, moves us into schematic design, and that's what we'll go over with you tonight. So we're taking that preferred design option of K through 6 at Roselle, and now going into full schematic design to move forward to get that full package and the dollar signs and everything to make a decision for the town in terms of whether or not we want to do this project, as well as the Mass School Building Authority in terms of whether or not they will support a project going into construction. So those are the headlines, and we'll provide some details about that now, and then, as I said at the end, we'll be happy to take some questions about any of this. So I'll turn it over to James from HMFH and talk a little bit about the solution.
Thanks, Gary. All right, so I'm James Liebman with HMFH Architects. So this is, a draft timeline of the project. We are looking at a two-phase construction project, so you see that in yellow. But today, we're in the early stages of what's called schematic design. We've completed our feasibility study, and that's what's been approved by the MSBA as of today. Schematic design is about 8 months, 6 of which, 5.5, 6 of which is heavy design work, and the last 2 is more public outreach. We'll be back here and at school open houses and a variety of other places. Then at the end of schematic design is when we have a cost estimate that is based on, the carefully calibrated needs and a specific design for West Bridgewater. And that cost estimate is the basis of the town vote for funding and the agreement with the final funding agreement with the MSBA for funding. Once that has happened and hopefully approved, then we continue into these other phases, into design development and construction documents, and then into construction. Gary hit on a lot of this. The project is located at the Roselle McDonald School site. for kindergarten through sixth grade for 175 students. The site will be occupied through construction, so that means that the existing school building will be in operation with students in it while the new building is being built. And it will be a two-phase construction project. I can talk a little bit more about that when we get to the site plan. We did have a great process with some educational visioning to come up with some really big picture project goals. And I'm gonna run through those in the next few slides. Building for West Bridgewater, making it a place where the community is gonna feel proud of it, the students are gonna feel proud to come to school, and the staff, enjoy working there. A place that fits in with West Bridgewater and with the town feel. A place that feels safe for students, visitors, and staff, and is safe. And a place that's energy efficient and easy to maintain for the next generations. The next goal is big picture goal is building for the educational needs now and in the future. Building a place that serves students of all abilities and has appropriate facilities and infrastructure to serve everyone. A sustainable building that will serve everyone for generations, will serve West Bridgewater for generations, and meets the needs of the district for the next, we say 50 years. We build for 50 years. A well-maintained building built the way that schools today are built can last much longer than that. A school that's adaptable for future needs and flexible in its spaces, flexible in its furnishings, a place where students feel like they belong and are supported. After that, the goals got a little more practical. So a project that can gain community support and that has a clear, transparent public process, a dependable solution that's going to succeed and come in on time and on budget, and a community facility that will serve the community both inside with gym and a cafetorium and meeting spaces, but also outside with playgrounds and walking paths. And then, I guess I said this, a project that comes in on time and under budget. So from there, I'm going to move into some site development. We have had a few meetings on the site. We've developed kind of a basic site program. The idea is that for drop-off and pickup, there will be separate bus and car lanes once you get onto the site. There'll be a loop road around the building, all the way around the building for emergency access and for deliveries towards the back. There'll be 135 parking spaces, which accounts for every adult in the building at full enrollment, and some visitor spaces, excuse me. There'll be a sidewalk connecting the new school to Stepping Stone Drive. There'll be 3 play areas, one for kindergarten, one for what we're calling lower school, which is first grade. Well, it's kindergarten through 3rd grade, but this play area will be 1st through 3rd. And then there'll be one for the upper school, 4th through 6th grade. And these will include play equipment, age appropriate for each group, multi-purpose hardscape, and grass areas for more creative and active play. You'll see in the site plan on the next slide, there is an option for a multi-purpose sports field, and we will be pricing that, and there'll be a decision made once we have prices and costs for that element. There's a plan for 2 outdoor classrooms for teaching outside, bringing students out into nature, and sunlight and fresh air can really impact their performance and their ability to take in information throughout the day. And so 2 outdoor classrooms, 1 for the lower school and 1 for the upper school, 2 student garden areas, again, split by school, and lots of connections to nature, both possibly with these outdoor classrooms, but also the site being wooded and wetlands has a lot of opportunities for walking paths and places that both the community can access nature and teachers can bring students to see things happening in the world, in the ground. So this is the site plan. I think I'm going to come out here. Oh, maybe I can't. So I can't really control this from here, so I'm just going to tell you. So all the way to the right, to the east, that is North Elm, excuse me. Off to the upper left is where Crescent Street is, and then on the south side at the bottom is Goldie Road and the neighborhood off of that. Stepping Stone Lane comes in from North Elm. It will remain a single street. It is really the only strong access to the site. There is an emergency easement, to Goldie Lane, which will remain as it is and continue to provide emergency access, but it will not become a primary school access. You can see that road come in. Cars will come in by that road. Buses will come in by that road. Cars will come around and loop around the front of the new building on the inner loop, the one closer to the school, and then buses on the loop behind that. And you can see that all circles around the primary parking area. This is planned to leave an area to the south of that for play and for green space. You can also see on that road from the Stepping Stone Lane along the way the multi-purpose field. It's shown as a soccer field, but the idea, there hasn't been a decision yet as to what kind of field it'll be, but a green field for athletic activities. You're also seeing number 3 are outdoor classrooms. So there's one near the front door. The front door into the school. I think I'm okay, but thank you. We've also, at the last school building committee meeting, been asked to look at the possibility of having an entrance into the school from the other side as well, from the west side. The idea being that this would provide maximum flexibility for the future, for what happens when this school when it opens will not be at full capacity, full design enrollment, but as more and more students come and more people move into West Bridgewater, and the school does meet capacity, this will provide flexibility for them to either keep it the way we have it now with buses and cars at the front, or to send cars around to the separate entrance to the back. I will say one more thing on the site plan about phasing. So the idea is that the dashed red line indicates the existing school building. The first phase of construction will build the central space, which includes the gym and the cafeteria and the admin and the library and all the sort of central shared spaces, and the lower academic wing, which is for kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. lower school. Once that's built, the students can move out of the existing building into the new building. Once that happens, we can demolish the existing building, at which point we can build phase 2 on the north side of the site, which is 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. Now you can see that again here. The central shared spaces in the middle, with the cafeteria in sort of light yellow, the gym in purple, admin in green, the kindergarten and 1st grade wing to the south, all that's built in phase 1. And then north of that is the 4th grade, built in phase 2. On the 2nd floor, there's the library, multi-purpose space, and some special education spaces in the center. And then 2nd and 3rd grade to the south, 5th grade, built in phase 2 on the north, and on the 3rd floor, 6th grade. Since this project began, there's been a lot of work done by the district to really try to right-size the project. Space is the biggest driver of cost. The more you build, the more it costs. Everything you can, every opportunity you can find to create efficiencies between spaces, use a space for 2 functions, determine that you need less. You still need to get what you need to meet the education plan. You don't want to build and be short, but doing the hard work of figuring out really what you need, not everything you want. So you can see that here. We've cut almost 22,000 square feet off of the project, which at about $1,100 a square foot project cost, approximately, is a lot of money. So they've removed the district offices at about 3,800 gross square feet. They've removed the pre-kindergarten program, as Gary talked about, at about 8,250 gross square feet. They've reduced the number of classrooms in kindergarten classrooms. The idea being that there'll be 7 kindergarten classrooms and 6 classrooms per grade, plus 2 classrooms for bubble years when, one grade might have more and that bubble moves through the system through the years. So there's a little bit of a relief valve in terms of number of students. They've reduced the special education program by over 5,000 square feet. It's still significantly larger than what they have now, because what they have now is nowhere near what they need. But in terms of just planning for and figuring out what they need, they've lowered the size of that. And they've reduced the number of art and music classrooms from 3 each to 2 each, and that's based on students going to those programs once a week, whereas the planning behind three would be twice a week. And that's how they operate. That's how the ed plan works, is twice a week. We have presented some exterior concepts that we're pretty excited about. I'm just showing one today. This is really well liked by the committee. This is an option we're calling the fold, but the idea is that it's you can kind of see the pieces of the building. The challenge will be to make it a cohesive whole that also expresses the individual pieces. So the individual grade wings, the central space, the welcoming entry, and that deals with the change in scale from the 2-story wing on the left to the 3-story wing on the right, and that handles that in a way that feels appropriate. And that's all I have. Gary, Sean, are you taking this? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Burke with PMA. If I can figure out how to use this thing. There we go. All right. So some of our milestones, like James has already touched on a little bit, schematic design. The month of June, we've been going through site programming. We've had some sustainability workshop reviews, and they're looking at the exterior and interior design reviews and further developing the design. They'll continue to do that into July. We'll start working with police and fire and security and site access. We'll work with West Bridgewater's admin and sustainability working groups to really further define the building so that we can get ready for, get as much information as we can for the estimators that is coming up in September. Through August, we'll have updates on mechanical systems. We'll do the traffic impact analysis. We'll be looking at the routing of the roads into and out of the site. Review all civil and site review with our engineers and exterior materials, and start to figure out what this building is going to look like from the outside and what materials are going to be used. And some of our goals are just to review the schematic design documents into September, project schedules and DESI submissions, and that leads up to our submission to the MSBA. Also in September is our estimate, so towards the middle to the end of September, we will be getting estimate numbers back from our estimators. We'll be looking at that, doing some value engineering and value management on that to try to drive that cost to where we need it to be, and we'll be submitting all of that packaged up to the MSBA in October. Starting in October, we'll be doing significant community outreach, continuing into November and into December. On December 12th is our MSBA board date for them to review our schematic design package, and assuming a positive vote from them, once we get that vote, we'll know what the grant is, we'll know what the project value is, and we'll be able to go out to the town to request a vote for the funding. So our next community meeting is scheduled to be fall of 2025. Here's our overall schedule. We're all the way over into Module 4, into schematic design. And like I said, that will be submitted to the MSBA in October of 2025. They'll be doing the reviews, and that leads up to our board meeting December 12th, 2025, where the MSBA will make a decision to support the project, and they will make a decision on what their final grant for the project will be. That'll run into town meeting and then ballot votes more than likely early, January of 2026. Upcoming meetings, we have the community forum tonight. We'll be doing more of those in the fall, and then our next school building committee meeting is on Tuesday, June 24th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. It's in this building up in the media center, so if anyone's available and like to come, they are public meetings and we welcome it. There's also a website where we post all of our presentations, all of our meeting minutes, information, all our submissions to the MSBA are all up there for anyone to review if they'd like to. The website address is WBES, that's West Bridgewater Elementary School, WBESbuildingproject.com, or for the more tech-savvy people, you can take a picture of that QR code and it'll bring you there. Like I said, this is just a sample of the website where it shows, the community forum presentations, the one we have tonight, the ones we've had in the past will be up there. All of our meeting minutes from the building committees will be there, as will all the presentations that we present. So if you're not able to make a building committee meeting in person, you can watch the YouTube and you can get all the information from our website. And I think that's what we have for tonight, and time for any questions.
Thank you, Sean. Before I open up to questions, I want to deal with one issue myself. James alluded to it regarding the entrance road, the road coming in, stepping stone, if you will. And I think at the very first meeting, I got a question relative to, are we making any changes at the entrance? And my response was, we don't anticipate, having to do that, or we don't want to do that. And certainly as it relates to North Elm Street, that's off limits to us in terms of, much as we'd like to, in terms of trying to do anything with a turning lane or anything like that. However, we have looked at the drawing that was established, the plan that was established when Stepping Stone Drive was accepted as a town road. When the school was built, Stepping Stone Drive didn't exist. It was just its own entrance road. It had the school had a North Elm Street address. And in 2012, so not that long ago, it was put forward as its own street, and a set of plans were produced accordingly. Within that plan, it does show that perhaps we have some town-owned land available right at the entrance to perhaps, again, cautiously, do a left and right turn lane out of Stepping Stone. We'd keep one lane coming in and do a left and right turn lane out there, out of Stepping Stone. We don't know if that's possible or not, but we are gonna look at. So I just want to modify the comment I made at the first community forum about that. Once we get past the two pieces of private property that abut the Stepping Stone and get in to the school property proper, then we will be making changes to the road. You probably noticed that in the schematic. I like to call it, we're softening the curves. Both our fire chief and police chief would really like to do that in terms of better access for them. When the school was built, we didn't even have a piece of aerial apparatus, and fire apparatus in general has gotten bigger, and we want to do something to soften that curve going in there, as well as make the road as accessible as possible. So I just wanted to put that on the record before I open it up to any questions. So the mic is on, and if you go to the mic, if you do have a question, so that we can hear, everybody can hear it, and we can also capture it for the recorded presentation.
Do you mind putting up the site plan for us, please, again?
Sure.
Good evening, Tim Hay, Conservation Agent. From the get-go, a project this size of this scope, the biggest elephant in the room for me is the wetland line is not defined. From what I hear, it's not going to be defined until they go to their notice of intent phase, which is well after the town votes on whether this project goes forward, sometime in 2027. That being said, my suggestion would be to make sure you design it outside of the 50-foot. That way there the town knows what it's getting into, and we don't have to go back at the end and ask for variances before the commission and put the commission on the hot seat to approve something that the town's voted on, and make it a difficult situation.
Right, we don't want variances, Tim. that's
Without
for sure.
a wetland line known, I mean, most projects this size and scope would have that done at the very beginning, so you know what your footprint is to work with. Being that it's not going to be done until later, this is a big unknown. My other question is, on the latest plans that you showed to the school building group, you had one that had 222 new trees added to the plan. How many are being removed?
Well, disregard the 222 new trees, for one thing. That is not our intent to add 222 new trees.
Okay,
So-
it was a really nice visual, but I said it doesn't really quite work. The other question was the 60-foot buffer between Goldie Road and the new proposed building. I believe that's the line that's number 5 on this, if you do the distance out, and that buffer looks like it's no longer there.
James.
There were some previous designs that you had where you had a very well-defined line across the plan, and this one it disappeared on, so I wasn't quite sure where that
So
buffer was.
The 60-foot buffer was aspirational, and we're still pushing to try to maintain as much as we can. But you're right, there is roadway around the building required by, by the emergency responders beyond that 60-foot line. That's
Okay.
true.
That's all I had the questions at this point.
Thank you.
My name is Mo McCarthy. I'm also on the Conservation Commission. Do we know, I think I asked Laurie, but I'm not sure, when we will be delineating the wetland lines officially?
Currently, the plan is the beginning of design development, which is...
I'm sorry?
Sorry. Currently, the plan is the beginning of design development, which is immediately after the town vote.
Yeah, and it confuses me personally how you can get to that point when you don't know what this is going to cost, really. Because if you don't if the Conservation Commission comes in and said, well, we don't like this and we don't like that, you're going to have to redesign it, the costs are going to shift too. How do you deal with that? Say again?
In the wetland lines.
I mean, I see a 50-foot buffer.
Our aim is to not be building in the wetland lines, excuse me. And to be able to make any required trade-offs between what we're restoring and what we're adding within the 50.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this sketch that we've got where the 50 runs, and there are multiple incursions into the 50, multiple. That as a rule, the commission is not too anxious to give variances on.
So for everyone, my name is Lori Coles. I'm also with HMFH Architects, and we did have a nice chat by the
We
model
did.
out there.
Yeah, we did.
So again, early design diagrams. We've had one conversation with a small subset of you. We just talked about having an informal meeting during this phase with the full group, which will be great.
Excellent.
I will tell you that just this past week, when our building committee meeting, we are actually making moves to put more program on the second floor. So in fact, the pieces you're seeing in that middle knuckle
Yeah.
are getting smaller in a way just for that reason. So again, as the design is evolving, our aim is to not be building. We will have the loop drive, and we're going to be talking about, moving out of buffer when we can and having to be in buffer on a loop drive because we do need the emergency access around, but not physical building in the 50-foot. But again, as you all mentioned, we want to hear your non-negotiables.
Well,
So-
exactly,
Yeah.
and we do them all the time with big warehouse projects in town where you might have a footprint at
Yeah.
least that big.
Yeah.
And many times you move the building just to move it out of
Right,
sight.
right.
So
And
it
we're in
gets
a
complicated.
we're in a little bit of a squeeze because the
Yeah.
existing building will be there. But
That's
again, we
right.
do have some methodologies, and we are already making those moves to take some of the program that you're seeing on that ground floor right now and putting it up so that the overall footprint can get narrower. So that's what we're working on right now.
Okay. We'll look forward to the,
And again, so even though the timing is later than you might want in design development, we get to the end of schematic design. I mean, we've got a very, very detailed set of plans, and nothing precludes us, and we did it with this building, we will reach out to all the affected boards and commissions in town and put those detailed schematic design plans in front of you. It would be foolish of us not to do that in advance of any town meeting vote.
My name's Lee Anderson, and I'm the chairman of the Conservation. And actually, to tell you the truth, I would like to see you guys come in front of us at the next meeting, if it's possible,
Sure.
which is July 15th, just to give like a little our
Sure.
feedback on what's going on. Because from what I can see, as the agent and one of the members said, that I strongly advise you to make sure you are looking to stay out of the 50 and don't even get near the wetland, because we are going to hold the 50-foot accountable. And there's not anything that you can, if there's going to have to be movement or anything like that, there's no room to replicate any areas to help maintain or fit in this project. And as for the gentleman said, for the access road possibly in the future, going up to Crescent Street, did you say something about that? No?
No, that's
Okay, well,
that's not
anyway,
on the table at all.
As for Stepping Stone Drive, there's only one way in, one way out. What happens if there is, say, an accident on that road, and then all of a sudden there's an emergency at the school? How does the fire department, ambulance get in?
Well, the easement on Goldie still exists, but I mean, in a worst-case situation in terms of an accident can't be cleared right away for that, but it's the same situation we're in today.
But you're not, are you
Yeah, and
looking?
the road is going to be wider, will be wider than the existing road. As part of the softening of that curve,
But
there'll
I
be a
think
widening
the
as
ideal
well.
would be perfect if it was two ways in, two ways out somehow for a project like this, at least now that we're going something new for the future.
You mean a secondary access?
Secondary access,
Yeah.
but I don't see where you can do that.
You can't. I mean, we looked at.
Exactly, you can't.
Early on, we looked at the possibility of Crescent Street. We don't have enough town-owned
There's
land
not
at
enough
the end.
replication area for that.
And, I mean, that's now wetlands meadow up in that area. And we'd have a whole situation with having to replace that culvert bridge. It's just not practical for us to do a secondary means of access out to Crescent Street.
And as for the school, is it soccer field there possibly?
As
possible.
was shown on the slide, it's just listed as an alternative right now.
And
We're
if
not,
that can't happen,
if
it
it can't,
doesn't
if
happen,
it,
right?
if it can't happen, it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So that's not a make or break for the project for
Okay.
us.
So as for another spot as a location, I said before at the last meeting that we had, Howard School and is for the septic system too on this. Why don't we plan on pre-K through 6 plus the administration all in this building and do it once? Because what happens if we do this now and 5 years down the road and pre-K and the administration is in the Spring Street School? Supposedly, I thought I heard that school was not good or was not able to last
it's
how
toward
much
the-
longer?
It's toward the latter stages of its useful life, that's for sure.
Okay.
But in terms of just hosting pre-K.
So 5
and
years down the road, what's going to happen?
Who knows what 5 years will bring? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, it's not the school building committee's decision in terms of where pre-K and school.
Well, we're trying to
and
think of a solution to get this all done once, one
I,
time only, one cost, and that's it.
and yes, that's where the school building committee was in looking at all the options. But in terms of where we are with this project, with the Massachusetts School Building Authority and the timeline that's established for us, we don't have the ability to do that. And as I said earlier, going to Howard is a bigger issue than just the school. It's the whole municipal system that we would have to deal with, and that's outside the scope of anything that we can do with this
So
project.
as the whole municipal thing even with the septic system, have you looked into DEP granting a waiver to add the septic system to the system that's there now?
Not at Howard.
At Howard, have you looked into that?
Yes, we did look into the possibility of a variance
What-
both at Howard and at Roselle.
And what did they say?
Well, yes, you can theoretically apply for the variance, but that doesn't happen until you go through the permitting process. There's no guarantee the variance would be created, and MSBA, we are pretty confident in saying this, is not going to grant us funding. Their board of directors is not going to approve this project.
You have proof of that?
In the
That
funding.
they're not going to grant you it? Or you're just saying?
We've talked to their staff. We talked to their staff.
And they said to you that they're not going to grant you it?
I mean, it's just a, it's
I'm
a
just
huge,
asking you.
it's a
Just say
huge
yes or no.
unknown. It's a huge unknown. It's unlikely was the response that we got back.
Just like 5 years down the road is a huge unknown of what's going to do with the Spring Street School in the, whatever's going to happen there. We're going to probably have to put up another building, right, for the administration and pre-K? Somewhere else, probably?
I mean, you've got Howard as an option as well. Again, outside our scope, but
I think-
Howard is going to, be 4, 5, and 6 are coming out of Howard. So obviously, you have to spend some money at Howard, but you could do something with that building in terms of some other use within the school department as
So
well.
theoretically, all you're doing is adding Roselle to that septic system. That's it. Everything's going there except for the Roselle.
Right, and that puts us
And how
over
many
the-
gallons of, what's the, I think is it 10,000?
10,000 kicks you into a wastewater treatment.
Okay, so is it above 10,000 or is it below 10,000 right now of that, with the septic system, or just putting in the septic system?
The design we're planning for is 9,800 gallons.
Okay, so it's underneath it.
And the
I understand that, but that's when you put in the
I'm
septic
going to ask you
one.
to come to the mic if you're
That's when you put in the
responding to
septic,
questions.
separate one for that system, which would work because I think Market Basket does that.
So you're talking about a lot of different things all at once. So on this site, the reason we selected this enrollment was because anything more than that was going to trip us into a wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, I understand that.
Okay. So one of the early reasons Howard was taken off the table was because it currently is with a septic system managing all the rest of your town and school buildings. And so anything happening there would trip that into being a wastewater treatment plant to be built somewhere, but we don't have the physical space and footprint, so we were wrestling with size and overwhelming that property.
So if
So
you
that's
put
why
in-
Howard went away.
So if you put in a separate system to add to that system at Howard, that would trip you into a waste treatment?
If
It
we
wouldn't.
if we add more use would be, so if you added Roselle to that site, so 3 more grades and adults, et cetera, to Howard's system, you're already at 9,800 gallons, you would definitely go over the
That's why you put a
10,000 in the
separate one in.
wastewater treatment.
That's why you put a separate one in for that. And for
But-
safety-wise, as in and out, Howard property area's got 2 ways in, 2 ways out.
It does.
For safety,
Yeah.
everything's right there near the fire department, police department. In case of any emergencies needed, everything's right there, centralized the school location, and that's a perfect spot. In my opinion, I believe that's a perfect spot.
And you make some good points. Again, both chiefs are members of our school building committee and have okayed, with the changes that we're showing, they're okay with the access that we have, that we're providing with the Roselle
Okay.
project.
But would the residents of the town, I don't know, that's just up to them, if they'd be happy with that. And as for the school building committee, how many members are on that?
There are 27 voting members.
27? They've all voted for this, either yes or no, they've all voted for this site to be done here?
26 did because the 27th has been added, so.
Okay,
they
so
did-
26 did, how many, do you know what the yes and no's were?
Yes, it was 16 to 6.
Okay, so out of those members, how many of those members don't live in town?
About a quarter don't live in town, and that's just based on position. The fire chief and several others who are the MSBA delineates who needs to be part of the committee. And obviously, we don't have control over where town officials and town staff who need to be part of the committee where they live.
But in order
But the
to-
majority of the members of the committee live in town. And let me make this point. The town is not paying 100%. So every one of the other members of the committee are state residents and will contribute with their state taxes to the 54, hopefully, percent that we're going to get back reimbursement from the state.
Okay, so basically, I could go to another town and do the same thing without any issues? And vote for their school as long as they're not,
I mean,
part of
if-
it's being paid for with the state? I just want to
you would
understand
not be,
myself.
you would not be appointed a member, you would not be appointed.
What's that?
Excuse me, you would not be appointed as a member of a school building committee as a resident or a parent
But the-
from another town.
but the
But
residents-
if you took a position that's a rostered member of the committee according to the MSBA, and you live in West Bridgewater, but you're participating in a project in Lakeville, you'd be a member of the
But
committee.
the residents are paying for this. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that it kind of aggravates me to say that the residents are paying for this, even though members of the board do not live in this town. I understand what you're saying, granted, it's not, part of it's being state, so they're going to be paying towards this, their state, whatever money's going towards it too, they're going to be paying for it. My thought is, the only ones that should be voting on this, on the board, should be the ones that live in this town.
The only ones who have the ultimate vote on this are town meeting, and going to be town meeting
I
residents.
understand that, but you guys pushing for this location, and for me, it doesn't seem like you're even, not saying that you're not thinking, because you have brought up ideas and you have brought up Howard Street, but centralizing the location of the school system should be the smart way of doing it, and getting everything, the administration, pre-K, all that stuff done at once, so 5 years down the road, we don't have to look for another spot because Spring Street's not going to be capable, and we can knock down Spring Street, knock down the Roselle, and either sell the property on Roselle or use that for some kind of field, or we could use the Spring Street School for a temporary or soccer field or whatever this one's going to be if this one doesn't make it.
All I can tell you is our school building committee on a percentage basis, has the most residents of any other board or commission that exists in this town in terms of the number of people
That's fine.
participating in an open committee process, as well as the fact that we are approaching our two-year anniversary, and they're open meetings. We meet at least once a month.
Yep.
Many months we meet twice a month, and they're open to anybody in the public to participate in our meetings. Happy to have you there.
Well, I would love to have you guys come to the next meeting in front of the board, because basically this is the whole board except for one member. And we can see what the location's going to be and if there's going to have to be any changes. Because as Mo said, you don't know what's going to happen until we find out what the delineation lines are for the wetlands, and you guys haven't even given it to us yet. And it's not fair to the town and for the board members to just sit here and wait and say, oh, okay, you guys came in, the town doesn't even, we can vote on it after the town voted on it, but they don't even know if anything's going to be changed. We should be able to tell them this is what's going to happen before that.
We're happy to meet with the board. We'll do
Yep.
that as many
Well,
times as
The
necessary.
next meeting is July 15th, so I'll be love to have you guys come in.
Happy to
And
do
we
that.
could-
And happy to do that as many times between now and the town meeting vote. But I'm going to say this in public. The decision that the building is going at Roselle has been made and approved by the Massachusetts School Building
Okay.
Authority.
Well, the whole decision after everything is done is the town residents that vote on this.
That's correct.
So that's the biggest thing for me.
That's correct. But any discussion about Howard is not appropriate for,
That's off the table.
completely off the table.
Oh, okay. So you guys made your decision and it's all done, right?
We've made the decision, and it has been affirmed by the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Hello, how are
Hi.
you? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, very good.
I had trouble just hearing some of you, so I want to make sure you can hear
Yep.
me. It's Jill Metcalf. Hey, I just, as a town resident, feel like I need to step up here. I have built in West Bridgewater, and I know when I went before the Conservation Commission, they said very clearly, and it was quite a long time ago, so no one here was on the board, that 50-foot was no touch. New construction, it's not allowed. And I see so many spots up here where you have spots where your building is in the 50-foot. And I don't see any spot on here that you can replicate your spot where you are. And it has to be part of this piece of land. We can't take another spot in West Bridgewater and put it. It needs to be where this is. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to find out that this number 2 section here, if you can just wait and let me finish, thank you. It's probably going to be more in the 50-foot no touch than the 100-foot. Because this area is extremely wet. And you're thinking of having, I love the outdoor classrooms ideas and all of this, but you have to also remember you have coyotes running through here, you have a huge tick problem. I love walking paths, but it also has to be in a walking path area that's a nice area to walk. I mean, I don't want my child walking through an area that's not safe because you have all these things going on. I just feel like a little bit like we weren't really honest about the Goldie Road spot, because there were people here who came to the other meetings and they got told that they were going to have a buffer, and now they're not here. They got told that you weren't going to change the end of Stepping Stone Drive, and now that you said you are. So, I mean, I understand it, but I think the town, it's great. But I think that this site we feel is like you're squishing everything in, and I do care about costs, but I want to see it done right. I'd rather spend more, and I have no kids in the school, than push something in a spot that is not the right spot. And that's all I want to say. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just like to say, I'm not opposed to this, because I am for this, we do need this, but I just, like Jill had said, I would like to have it done the right way, one time only, and not have to worry 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, because after you guys have spoken, this thing should last over 50 years, no matter what. We'll see if that happens, because, I don't know, but I would like to get it done once, get it done the right way. We gotta spend a little extra money, which we're gonna have to spend. The town people should be able to know what they're gonna get in the right spot for what they're gonna have.
I just want to again reinforce the comment I made about the entrance. It's not a done deal on that, and any changes that we would make to try to improve the egress on Stepping Stone onto North Elm would only be with any existing town-owned land. It would not be as part of any formal taking of any private property. Any other questions?
Charlie Lucchetti, and a butter to this whole project. And let me start with the fact that I think the idea of having a top-notch school in West Bridgewater is absolutely great, and I have no problem with whatever the expense is. I do have a couple of concerns. One, have you done a traffic study, or are you talking about doing a traffic study?
So to date, we have done the assessment of existing conditions,
Okay,
and then they will be coming back, looking at the design option and giving advice to go forward.
Okay, so out of curiosity, currently, today, how far on the driveway that exists do you see as a backup for the current drop-off?
I don't know.
So again, the traffic engineers have not assessed the full design.
No, I'm not talking about future at this point. I'm talking right now just to get a sense of how realistic your expectations are. On that chart right there, where would you suspect your current backup is to the current drop-off?
Unfortunately, I don't see the principal here. She would be able to tell us.
Well, I can already tell you, it's at the curve just before that soccer field. And you're going to double the enrollment plus? So I can only imagine traffic's going to back out into North Elm.
Well, I don't know if the Superintendent Bardwell wants to address this, but it's an operational issue for the school committee, obviously, but there will, in my opinion, there'll definitely need to be a staggered schedule for the school. There's no way that entire school can operate on the same opening and closing schedule.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you were aware, because I sit in my backyard and I watch the cars that back up in that driveway, so I know how far back the backup goes.
Right, and again, as James mentioned, one of the things that is on the table as of our last school building committee meeting is adding that entrance in the back, which would allow use of the loop road for probably parent drop-off and pickup, which would help alleviate the volume that kicks back out into the entrance road if they're looping around the building. And again, with this building here, the original intent was bus in the front and parent drop-off and pickup in the back. That didn't happen because of security issues at the time, and we understand that that operational issue may be looked at this building, which is why we've put it on the table for this one.
Okay. Moving beyond all of that, I just wanted to bring that issue up. Curiosity speaking, if the soccer field doesn't go there, do you see any reason to have to cut down the woods that are underneath that soccer field?
We are talking about, and maybe it's hard to show there, but shifting the drive southward out of the wetlands buffer. So that would, require some clearing of trees along that stretch. And to be honest, we've heard, and I got a sense of it even tonight, that how woodsy it is feels a little bit not as secure. So we are looking to open it up, but no, there would be no reason to go the full amount of the field you're showing there. But a little more opening, so you're sort of, as soon as you get to a point, you can see the school in front of you.
Yeah, I think I was talking to you out front, and my concern being 60 feet is barely more than the extent across this. And we already have blowdown issues from the woods, and that's fairly protected because that's probably about 120 to 150 feet. You get it down to 60 or less, and there'll be trees flying out of there left and right into people's backyards. And that's why I was curious. If you don't put the soccer field there, which is somewhat, imagine it's a problem everywhere, but you recognize you're putting it right in amongst wetland. The mosquitoes, I don't know how in the world anyone's going to use that come 6 o'clock at night or later. Next thing, I've never seen anything addressed in any of your publications that you send out every month or so about drainage. And now that you've got this bigger footprint and more tar, is the current philosophy that it's just going to drain into the existing wetlands and that will just make the wetlands bigger?
No.
No? No to which?
No. No, the plan is not to drain into the wetlands. There'll be a full stormwater management plan, designed during the next phases. Right now, it's just highly conceptual. But that will likely include both above ground and below ground stormwater retention.
So not piping it out towards North Elm and sending it somewhere else?
No, the
Somewhere-
regulations are that you hold the water for a certain amount of time while it seeps back into the
So,
ground.
in essence, living within this site somewhere.
Correct.
All right. You know that a lot of us have water issues in our backyards. Some of them are technically in a floodplain as you get to the end of the neighborhood. I don't know how you can throw more water at us, but that's all I got to say at this point.
And as that gentleman said about the stormwater, is that going to be brought before us after the vote for the town people or before? As the wetland lines, you said after.
I mean, it'll be part of the permitting process that occurs.
Is it going to come
af-
before or after?
But again, we'll have schematic drawings available.
I know,
that we
before
can-
or after?
That we can bring to you before.
So if we could actually tell you that this is going to be the problem, that what to do, and this before the actual town vote, or no?
We won't have a finalized wastewater management plan, but we would be happy to work with you and with our civil engineers to determine the
When will you have the final,
during permitting after the vote.
after the town votes on this whole project,
Correct.
providing they don't know what the wetland line's going to be and what the water detention areas are going to be for the runoff?
Correct.
Okay, so this is all going to be done
Correct. It'll
before
be
the
part-
town-
it'll be-
after the town votes for something that they don't even know if this is even going to work to the exact way it's going to work up here right now. So as the towns, I want to say to the residents, before this gets going, think about what you're going to vote for, because if we have to change something on the board, we're going to change it. If anything with wetlands, they're not going to be touching it. And we will not be, we will be holding the wetland line and the 50-foot buffer very strongly to what's going on here, because anything new, we're trying to protect that as the board.
We will be,
But it's going to be done after the town vote. But I'm just trying to tell people, this is going to happen after the vote.
You are correct, but that is the schedule with the state funding. So,
The town
understood.
should know what they're doing.
Understood. But the other thing is you've hired a team of engineers, all of which will make a very good plan, ensure we have budgetary numbers. We will be meeting with you to review it.
And you have no other spot to even show to put this whole plan on another site. This is
If there-
the spot
right,
you
the-
picked, and this is the spot you're going to have, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see you at the meeting.
Other questions?
That's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to, we need this, but I just want to make sure everybody knows what to vote for.
And again, I chaired the building committee for this project right here that you're sitting in, and we went through the same process. Did we have a lot of the similar issues? Maybe not, but we had some issues. And again, that package of schematic, they may not be finalized, they may not have been accepted by the state, but that package of schematic design drawings, when we get to the end of that phase in October, are certainly detailed enough that we could have, and leading up to that point, we can have any number of meetings that we need to have with any of the boards and commissions in town to try to hammer out these issues before we get to that point. And we did it with this building here, and we'll do it again.
Can I just offer one more thing?
Sure.
I do want to point out that this idea that we're down to one site is built into the public process and the MSBA process. There's no way to be where we are today without having selected a single site to be focused on and for them to approve. They would not have approved a project that was still looking at two sites, not at this point.
And again, as I reported, I don't want to beat a drum on Howard because we're beyond that, but as I reported at the April meeting, we did go back one more time before we voted on this site. We did go back and, as a full school building committee, reevaluate and revisit all the issues related to Howard, with the biggest one being, in my mind, the fact that we were in wastewater treatment. We had to consider all those buildings. We couldn't isolate a new school, and wastewater treatment would not fit on the current site for the entire municipal system. And where are we going to go? Where are we going to put it? We can't be, as a school building committee, deciding where some external wastewater treatment is going to be. That's a bigger decision for the town sometime down the road.
I just wanted to say one thing. It's Jill Metcalf. Hey. The only thing I want to say about this is I'm pretty sure that when we built the high school that we dealt with all the wetlands and all the lines of all the fields beforehand because they were concerned about it. So I don't understand why we can't do that before we vote on it, why we have to wait until after when the high school is not that old. I'm almost positive we did because they was concerned about the baseball field out there and how it fit, and was the field hockey field going to have to go into the baseball field. It ended up doing it even though we voted that it wouldn't be. But I just don't understand why you can't give the town people a clear idea about what's going to happen before. I mean, a lot of big projects like this are required to have an outside person come in and oversee what happens. And maybe that needs to happen here too. Thank you.
And I would just point out that we're in June. We have months to go before this is going before the voters. Months. And we've already addressed that we are more than willing to meet with any committee as this process is going along to hear their input, to make adjustments. Months to go. This is not what you're voting on. This was from our previous submission. So give us time. We're working hard. We'll be back.
And for this building, we did do the same process. We met with all the affected boards and commissions. We did a special study in advance on the effect of this building on the aquifer for the potential future town water site off of North Elm Street. So a lot of pieces can be at play before we get to that vote. Other questions? All right, thank you for your participation, and stay abreast on the website, come to our meetings, and we'll be back in September with another update.